Okay, so today is Sunday, Yud Aleph Iyar, and to be honest, I bit off quite a bit today. I knew it. I wrote myself a note last year, this Parsha, that I should do this topic this year. But I've been writing that note to myself for about 5 years because it's a very, very involved topic. As it turns out, I only gave you, I think, 15 pages. And on this particular occasion, I didn't even learn through my own collection. I had a stack of maybe 50 or 60 pages. I pushed it. I spent a very long time preparing, no regrets. But I didn't even get through all my own material. What's in here I prepared, obviously, but it's a very, very involved topic. And let me just give you a bit of an introduction. This week is Parsha Emor, or Emor as it's sometimes called. Parsha Emor starts off with the Kohanim, all the halachas of Kohuna are in Parsha Emor. Then it continues with various halachas of Karbonis, Sherei Kesef. And after you have the halachas, various halachas of Karbonis, you go on to the halachas of Yom Tov. The Torah has 5 places where the halachas of Yom Tov are discussed. I've told this to you in the past. Twice in Sefer Shmeis, once in Mishpatim, and then again and once in Kisisa. Once in Sefer Vayikra in our Parsha, Parsha Emor. Once in Sefer Bamidbar in Parsha Pinchas, and once in Sefer Dvarim in Parsha Re'eh. So there's 5 different times that the Torah reminds us of the mitzvah of the Shalosh Regalim and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and so forth. But they're not all the same. Each one is a little bit different. I suppose the most distinctive is Parshas Pinchas, which is in Bamidbar. Because in Parshas Pinchas you have all the musafs, all the karbonos musafs that Yidden were to bring in the Beis HaMikdash on Rosh Hashanah, on Yom Kippur, on Sukkot, on Pesach, and on Shavuos are in Parshas Pinchas. The Ramban here says a Chiddush Nifla. The Ramban says that in Parshas Pinchas you have the musafim. You don't have them in Parshas Emor because in the Midbar there was no carbon musaf. In the Midbar, the 40 years the Yidden were in the desert, there was no carbon musaf. So b'meila, all the musafim written in Parshas Pinchas, because Pinchas was at the very end. Aaron HaKohen had already passed away. It was the Shnas Arbaim, the 40th year, and all the halachas of the menachas of the musafim are brought because they're about to go into Eretz Yisrael. And this is the Ramban, which is a big chiddush, especially according to the Ramban's shita, because he holds that the whole Torah was the ksuva of the fun of. The idea of Vestach as Torah, not Megillas, but Torah Stumanit now, that the whole Torah was given at Har Sinai. But okay. The exception, of course, is Yom Kippur. Last week's Parsha, the Veda of Yom Kippur, they did do in the Midbar. But Yom Kippur is not a Musaf, Yom Kippur is something special. Avedas Pnim. The Musafim that Yidden would bring on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot would not start till they go into Eretz Yisrael. So in our Parsha, in Parshas Emor, you have simply the inyan of keeping Yom Tov, with a couple of additional exceptions. Number one, you have Korban Emor and Sfiras HaEmor. And the reason Korban Emor is in our Parsha, because Korban Emor is barley. You don't have to worry about Yidden bringing barley in the Midbar, there's no barley available. And the same is true also on Shavuos. You have the Shtei HaLechem, the Korban of the 2 loaves of wheat. Again, it's written in our Parsha, even though the Musafim are not going to be till they go to Israel, because they killed Israel, there's no wheat. So you have Sfiras HaEmor in our Parsha, you have Shtei HaLechem, you have Korban Emor, and of course also you have all of the halachas of the Daled Minim. The only place in the Chumash, as far as I remember, where you have the Daled Minim, Pri Eitz Hader, Kapes Tmorim, Anaf Eitz Havas, V'Arvei Nachal, is in our Parsha. So it's quite long, it's 40-something psukim of a discussion of Yom Tov. But the karbanos of Yom Tov are not really mentioned because Yidden were not going to bring these karbanos till 40 years later to Yidden on the verge of going into Eretz Yisrael, once they went into Eretz Yisrael. That's straight enough. But there's another thing here. And that is, there are 4 different psukim that seem to be saying the same thing. Okay? Look inside. Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe. Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu Leimer. What does Leimer mean? To repeat over to the Jewish people. Daber Abnei Yisrael. Speak to the Jewish people. And what should you tell them? Me'adei Hashem, the Yomim Tovim of Hashem. Asher tikru oisam mikra that you will calling holiness. Elehei me'adei yizam Yomim Tovim. Pasuk Dala, 2 psukim later. Eila me'adei havaya. These are the Yomim Tovim of the Eibishter. Mikra Kedesh that are called holiness. Asher tikru oisam, that you should call them, you should identify them, but them in their time. Yeah? Then you don't have this, but you're going to have to trust me. In Pasuk Lamed Zayin, it says, and I quote, these are the Yomim Tovim of the Eibush, that you should call Mikra Kedesh. Then it says, and then of course, Pasuk Mem Dalet says, Vayedaber Meishes Me'adei Hashem Abnei Yisrael. That Moshe Rabbeinu told the Yidden Me'adei Hashem. So when I started out my class, I was very, very ambitious. I wanted to correlate all 4 psukim. But eventually I realized that forget about me chewing it, I can't even bite it, I can put my mouth around so much information. So my class was reduced. Instead of trying to explain why you have 4 psukim that are the same thing, we're going to just deal with the first 2. And if I don't forget and I don't lose my courage, next year we'll do Pasuk Mem Daled. Eila Me'adei Hashem, Vayedaber Meishe, Es Me'adei Havaya El Bnei Yisrael. But the topic for tonight is that you have 2 psukim, almost in succession, that say the same thing with a number of variations. Do I have everybody's attention? Yeah, we're on board? Let's read the psukim again. Vayedaber ad Hashem al Moshe. Hashem speaks to Moshe Rabbeinu Lamed. They should repeat to the Yidden. David al Bnei Yisrael, tell the Yidden. And of course, Mepharshim observe. He doesn't say David Emer al Kayanim Bnei Aaron, tell the Kayanim, like the beginning of our parsha. Because even though it's talking about Yom Tov, take a copy. It doesn't say David al Aaron Valbonov, because since this is not about the Karbonis, this is simply about Yom Tov. If it would be about the Karbonis, it would say speak to the Kayanim, like the first half of this parsha. But since the second half of the parsha is not talking about the Karbonis, it's talking about the Moadim themselves. So it says, David Abnei Yisrael, speak to all of the Jewish people. V'yamarta aleim, and what should you tell them? Me'adei havaya, the Yomim Tovim of Hashem. The literal translation of the word Me'adim means the Zmanim, the times. Me'adei Hashem, the times of Hashem. Asher tikru eithim, that you should call them Mikra Kedesh, that they're called holiness. Eilehei me'adai, these are my times. And then it says, Sheishes Yomim Te'asem Alacha, 6 days work should be done. Over Yom HaShvi on the 7th day, Shabbos Shabbosin. It's the Sabbath of Sabbaths. Mikra Kedesh, that is called holiness. Called Malacha Leitas, you shouldn't do any work. Because Shabbos Hila Hashem, this is a day of rest. To Hashem, B'chel Meishvei Seichem, and all of your communities, even in the diaspora. Then it says in Pasuk Daled, Eila Me'adei Hashem, these are the times that the Eibush fix that are called Mikra Kedesh, that are called holiness. Asher Tikru Eithim, that you should call them Ameidam in their time. So the plain, obvious question is, Pasuk Beis and Pasuk Daled are saying the same exact thing 2 times in a row. The only thing is, in the middle you mention Shabbos. So Rashi says, Bepashtus, that Hashem is introducing Yidden to the Yomim Tovim. So he says in Pasuk Beis, Me'adei Hashem asher tikru eithim mikra kedesh eileh me'adei. But since he goes off to Shabbos, so after he discusses Shabbos, he goes back and says again, Eileh me'adei ad Hashem asher tikru mikra kedesh eileh me'adei. Asher tikru eithim me'adei. But a lot of the Mefarshim are not satisfied with this pshat. Why in Pasuk Beis and in Pasuk Daled is the same thing repeated twice? Hashem is introducing us to the Yomim Tovim, and He doesn't simply introduce us to the Yomim Tovim, He introduces us 2 times. And between the introductions, you have one solitary pasuk that mentions Shabbos. Okay? But in addition to that, if you look at the 2 psukim are saying, as they say in Teenageville, basically the same thing, but it's not identical words, right? Look at Pasuk Beis. It says, V'yame'adei Hashem asher tikru eisa mikra kedesh. And in Pasuk Daled it says, Me'adei Hashem mikra kedesh asher tikru eisa. You see? In Pasuk Beis it says, Eila me'adei Hashem asher tikru eisa mikra kedesh. You are labeling them mikra kedesh. And in Pasuk Dal says, and of course in Pasuk Beis he doesn't finish off B'mei Adam, he says Eilahem Mayadoi. So there's more to it than simply repetition. There's a repetition with a nuance, right? So the fundamental question is, why is the same thing repeated twice? And the small differences between the two texts. And if you want to be blunt, since when is the Torah in the business of giving introductions? What were to happen if I davened the Shem Moshe Leimer, Sheish Yesam Tiyasam Alacha, and then you would say B'Chaydish Harish and Rechad L'Chaydish? That's all. B'Chamish Yasam L'Chaydish. Who needs all these Eilahei Mayadais, right? Mayadei the Shem Asher Tikru Eisa Mayadei Eilahei Mikroike, right? And then the second pasuk, Eila Mayadei the Shem Mikroike Kedesh. Who needs these introductions, B'Chlal? In other words, first of all, who needs two psuk? Second of all, why are there differences between the first and second pasuk? And finally, b'chalal, if you would skip pasuk beis and pasuk dal and go aleph, gimel, hey, everything would be fine. So we have, I suppose, the best way for us to put it, psukim that look simply like introductions. And the question we have basically is, since when is the Torah in the introduction business? And why all of a sudden here, when it comes to Yom Tov, the Torah say 2 times, almost in succession, these are the Yomim Tovim that are called holy, that you have to keep to the Eibush. These are the questions. As the class unfolds, you'll begin to see why these 2 psukim are here. Rashi and Pshutei Shal Mikra says something very, very comprehensive. In other words, once you've learned Rashi, you've already opened up the window into these 2 psukim considerably, because Rashi right away, off the bat, explains these 2 psukim not as being introductory, but as teaching us 2 distinctive halachas that we cannot learn from Yom Tov itself. In other words, Pasuk Beis teaches us something very distinctive, Pasuk Dal teaches us something else which is distinctive, and so on. But we're going to wait a little bit with Rashi. Why? Because we love intrigue, we love suspense, we like to leave the best for last. So we will follow the syllabus as I wrote it on the margin, and the first thing we're going to learn is the Rasag. Rab Sadia Gaon, page 1 please. Rab Sadia Gaon, as you know, lived around 1200 years ago. His Pirush on Chumash is one of the oldest Pirushim on Chumash after the Kuf of the Midrashim and the Chazal. It's a long story. We don't have the full Pirush of the Rasag. We have only the Targum of the Rasag, of the translations of the Rasag in Arabic, which the base of Kapach translated into Hebrew. And they quote from many other Sfarim, different quotes from the Pirush Rasag. The Even Ezra quotes the Rasag constantly. And the Sefer Even Ezra, Sadia Gaon, is called Hagon. The genius, Hagon Stam, is Rabbeinu Sadia Gaon. So we don't have the Pirush of the Rasag, but there have been a lot of efforts made to collect it. The Rasag has the questions we have. Who needs these psukim, and why 2 of them? And he says very plain, Daber, Tzav, Asher Tikru Eisa Mikroi Kedesh, that you should call them callings of holiness. Says Rab Sadia Gaon on the right side on page 1 at the top, Asher Choiva Shetikru Eisam B'Shem Es Miyuchadim. Rabbeinu Sadia Gaon says it's a special mitzvah to give Yomim Tovim a name. To give a Yom Tov a name. It's not enough to have a Yom Tov, you have to name it, right? Eila Meya de Havaya. The Yomim Tovim of Hashem, the Eibush set aside Moadim, Asher Tikru Eisa Mikra Kodesh. You should call them Mikra Kodesh, called holiness Eilahei Me'adeh. So if I were to translate this Reb Sag Bepashtus, we would say the following. Hashem gave us Yomim Tovim. He linked the Yomim Tovim to certain months and to certain days, and really it's not just days and months, but in certain seasons, right? The Yomim Tovim fundamentally follow the harvest. The early harvest, the late harvest, and then the end of the summer when you collect the fruit. That's what Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot are. On the most basic level, they're holidays of the harvest. That's what they are, B'Pashtus. Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. So the Eibush gave us Moadim. What does Moadim mean? Times. And he says to us, Tikru Eisa Mikra Kodesh. You give them names. I am giving you holidays and linking them to the seasons. I want you to give the Yomim Tovim names. And it is interesting that if you look in the children come home from school, every Yom Tov has a minimum of 3 names. Chag HaSukkos and Chag HaOsev and Zman Cheruseinu, and Shavuos has 4 names. Chag HaBikurim and Atzeres and Chag HaShavuos and Zman Matan Tereseinu. There's many names for the various Yom Tov. In fact, the Rebbe has a Pesach de Kesiche, where the Rebbe explains the 3 names of the Yom Tov of Pesach: Chag HaMatzos and Zman Cheruseinu and Chag HaPesach. That there's a reason why we have names. The Tzaddik Eibush says, I'm giving you times, you name them. What's the pshat? Of course, the answer to that question is, I have no idea. The Tzaddik says, give a name. But if you've learned Abisa Chassidus, and you know the power of a name, Shmoya Shayikro B'Lashon HaKodesh, that when something has a name, it has a special chayas. So Tzaddik Gaon is saying a gvaldik azach. You have a Sunday, and you have a Monday, and you have a Tuesday, and you have a Wednesday, and a Thursday, and a Friday, and a Shabbos. You have the first day of the month, the second day of the month, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, the ninth, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, the 14th, the 15th day of the month. Hashem is going to tell you, I want the 15th day of the month to be a celebration. And He says, and I want you to name it. Because if we wouldn't give the Yom Tovim names, all they would be dates in the calendar. On this day in the calendar, do these rituals. By giving them names, we're distinguishing them in their quality. We're saying, this is not a normal day. It's an extraordinary day. It's a day which is defined not just by a series of rituals. It has a different name, Mikra Kodesh. It has a name which separates it and gives it a holiness that is distinctive from all the other days of the year. So the Eibishter gave us Moadim, and He gave us a mitzvah to give the Moadim names. And of course the first one is Shabbos. But Shabbos we did not create. Shabbos Makacha V'Kaima. The Eibishter created Shabbos. So in Pasuk Daled, the Torah says a second time, Eila Me'adeh Hashem Mikroi Kedesh Asher Tikru Eisa Me'adam Soktra Sag, page 3 now. Asher Shmeiseyem Yuchodim, the names are distinctive. Top of the page on the right. Asher Choiva, we already discussed 2 psukim before. It's mandatory. Shetikru Eisam B'Shemes Miyuchad. They should have special names, Bizmaneim, in their appropriate time. So the Rasag says, remember 2 psukim ago I told you should give the holidays names? Well, I want you to give the holidays names as it relates to specific times. Sounds to me like the same thing twice again, right? You don't see much of a difference. And again, I'm only going to tell you my opinion. Since in Pasuk Gimel He spoke about Shabbos, and one thing nobody can deny about Shabbos is you know when it's coming. It's a predictable Chag. Every 7th day is Shabbos. So in Pasuk Beis He says, I am giving you times, you give them names. So in Pasuk Dal He says, listen, we just spoke about Shabbos. To give Shabbos a name is not a big deal because Shabbos you know exactly when it's coming. So He says a second time, but just like Shabbos is a Moed, and just like Shabbos has a name, you should give names to the special Moadim of the other holidays, although they're manifesting much more fluctuating. It's much less constant, like you can have an Ibayad, an extra month, and so forth and so on. So the Tzaddik Gaon says that Pasuk Beis and Pasuk Daled are an instruction to Yidden to give Yom Tovim names. And when Yidden give them names, they're creating a new Metzias, a new Chefetz of Zman, they're creating a new Inyan in Eichos Hanyon. Any comments or questions? Next is Even Ezra. Okay. Even Ezra is on the left side of your page. Second entry. Okay? You see what I'm reading? What is the arrow? On page 1 on the left side, second arrow. He just finished discussing all the karbanos. Hiskir Hayom, he now mentions the days. Turn the page. Shayakrivu Bohem Ha'olos. He mentions days in which these special karbanos are going to be brought. V'hachel me'Shabbat, beginning with Shabbos. So since earlier in the Parsha he spoke about karbanos, now he says, hey, no, listen to me now. You will bring the karbanos on these particular occasions. V'hachel me'Shabbat, he starts with Shabbos. Okay? And before he discusses Shabbos, he says, even though Pasuk Beis is only introducing Shabbos. But since the year has multiple Shabbos, that's why it says, to Turn to the third page. Still Even Ezra. Now we're doing Pasuk Dalet. He then mentions the Yomim Tovim. By Shabbos he says Eilehei Me'adoi, that the Yomim Tovim are mine. But when it comes to the other Yomim Tovim, he mentions in their time. And the reason is because it can happen. Shabbos is always the same day of the week. Yom Tov can occur any day of the week that it wishes. And therefore, when he's introducing Shabbos, which is in Pasuk Beis, it says Eilehei Mayadai. This is my time, the time of Shabbos. When he's introducing the Yomim Tovim, he says B'mei Adam, in their times, Lashon Rabim, because theoretically at least the Yomim Tovim can occur any day of the week. Okay? And then the Even Ezra goes on to say some more. We're going to leave the Even Ezra alone because whatever the Even Ezra is going to tell us that's relevant to us, that Ramban and Rashi are going to say already. So what is the Even Ezra saying? That Pasuk Beis is Hashem introducing Shabbos, and Eilehei Me'adoi, Lashon Rabim, means the many Shabbos in a year, and Pasuk Dalet is including the other Yomim Tovim. That's why it says B'mei Adam. The next item on our agenda after Even Ezra is the Ramban. Page 1, on the right side, near the bottom. He mentions Shabbos amongst the Yomim Tovim that we have to call Mikra Kodesh, because Shagam Hu Yei Meyed, it also is a special time, Nikra Eisa Mikra Kodesh, that we will call holy. Then he separates Shabbos of the Yomim Tovim. He repeats a second time in Pasuk Daled, you should call them in their times. So that Ramban makes the same point as Even Ezra. How come by Shabbos it says Moyadoi, and by Yom Tov it says Moyadam? And he answers Pashat, because Shabbos can occur the same day of the week every year, and Yom Tov can occur on any day of the week. Claiming this means Be'eza Yemin Hashavua, turn the page, any day of the week, turn to page 2. She'agia Bei, which Yom Tov is going to fall, you're going to celebrate Yom Tov. Ki Shabbos Kavuahu, Shabbos is always fixed. It always happens the seventh day. You don't have to say B'mei in its time. That's why in Pasuk Beis it says Eilehei Mayadai. We have to call it Yom Tov. Masha Enkin Yom Tov, we have to make it into a Yom Tov. Okay, so what does the Ramban say? Pasuk Beis is talking about Shabbos. Pasuk Dal is talking about Yom Tov. And the difference is that since Pasuk Beis is talking about Shabbos, it says Mayadai. And since Pasuk Dal is talking about Yom Tov, it says Mayadam, that we can make Yom Tov. Okay, let's do the Suppornu, please. The Suppornu is on page Aleph. Bottom of the page. Me'adei Hashem, Asher Tikru Eisam B'Mikroi Kodesh, the Yomim Tovim of God that you call Mikra Kodesh. Says the Suppornu, Achar, since he just finished. Dibe B'inyan HaKarbanos HaMakrivim, he just finished talking about the Karbanos, knows to bring the Karbanos. The purpose of bringing Karbanos is that the Shechina should rest amongst the Yidden. As the Pasuk says, Elo Mincha, Elas Tamad Resechem Pesach Ehel. Moyed Lifnei Hashem Shalvar L'Chasham. When Yidden bring Karbanos, the Shechina rests. Diber B'Meyadim. So as soon as we finish talking about the Shechina resting in the Beis Hamikdash through Karbanos, he talks about Yom Tov. Asher b'shvisasam yechaven lishpeis mimais yehedet. That the meaning of shvisa, of resting, means resting from ordinary work. B'ktsasam, some of them you have to rest altogether, not do any kind of work. What's called kamalachas aveda leisasu. Go down 5 lines. Ub'ktsasam tiya schira hashvisa mimalachas aveda bavad. In the 7th year, you're not allowed to work in the field, agriculture. Kameshu inyan b'shara meyadis. But aside from that, you're allowed to do work in the field. So when the pasuk says, Mikra Kodesh. Mikra Kodesh connotes 2 things. First of all, Mikra Kodesh connotes you shouldn't do work. And second of all, Mikra Kodesh connotes that this is a holy day and you should give it to the Eibishter. V'akavana behem, the idea is as follows. She'im simchas hayem shishmach Yisrael be'esav. When you didn't keep the Yom Tov, it's yiyeh esek b'ktasei b'iskei Kodesh. A little bit is still Hashem's. As the Gemara says, when it comes to Yom Tov, half is the Eibishter and half is our own. Ubazan, by giving the Eibishter our half, Yishre, Shechina Yisrael B'Yisav, the Shechina rest on Yidden. Like it says, I'll keep it with a scale. But then it says, Omar Eisam Moadim shetikru Eisam Mikra Kodesh. Those Yom Tov that are called Mikra Kodesh, it means to gather people together. Okay. Then it says at the bottom where I made my arrow, Eilehei Moyadoi, Heim Oisam HaMoyadim She'etzim. This is a desired Yom Tov that the Eibishter has when you split it 50-50 with the Eibishter. Amam Kishalei Tikreis Mikra Kodesh, you don't call it holy. Avayu Mikra Chayil Ve'esik B'Chayishav V'Tenugat V'Yom Tov. If you take a Yom Tov and you treat it like a regular day, Leizu Layu Me'adei Aliyah Me'adeichem Son and Nafsh, you don't call the Eibishter's Yom Tov. The Sipurnu says the Eibishter gave us special days. And he tells us 2 things. Mikra Kodesh. Mikra Kodesh means part of it is holy and part of it is for you. You'll see in the other Mefarshim that by Pesach, by Yom Tov, it's Chesed LaHashem and Chesed LaChem, half to God and half to the person. Shabbos and Yom Kippur is Kula Lavai, it all belongs to the Eibishter, whatever the pshat that is. And therefore the pasuk says as follows. Eibishter gave us a Yom Tov. He says, Eilehei Mayadai. I gave you my holiday. But even after I gave you my holiday, there's only one way the holiday is going to be mine. If you serve me on the holiday. If I give you a holiday and you make from it a simple celebration and you don't serve the Eibishter, you have in effect stolen the holiday from the Eibishter. So Eilei Me'adei means this is how you make this holiday into my own, and of course the answer is by using it for Avodas Hashem, for Ruchnis, for Yiddishkeit. Okay? So I just read now 4 Mefarshim. It's too difficult for me to figure out exactly how many Chedushim we have. We have 2 Psukim. Both Psukim are not necessary. The Rasag says it's given the Yomim Tovim a name. Other Mefarshim say that you have to treat the Yom Tov with a certain holiness, and so forth. And now we get to Rashi. Rashi opens us up to what we would call the falling off the continental shelf when it comes to these 2 Psukim. Rashi says a very, very big Chiddush. Rashi says that these 2 psukim, Pasuk Beis and Pasuk Daled, are the source of the mitzvah of making a calendar. It's the source of the mitzvah of making a calendar. Pasuk Beis, Rashi is on the left, on the top, on page 1. Do Yomim Tovim Yisrael Malandam, Yidden should learn on them. Shema Abrim or learn about them. Shema Abrim es Hashana Yolana make a Ibiyar Al Golos Shenekrum came and if people left their places Lazal Lerego Vadan Yerushalayim. The Torah tells us you should know that the Chachamim were given the power that's called Ibur Shana. Ibur Shana means to add to a year an extra 30 days, an extra month. So the Eibush says to the Chazal, I have given you the power to fix time. And when the Chazal decide that it's a little too early for Pesach, the roads are too rainy or the people are too late, the Chazal have the authority to add a month. And Pasuk Beis is not simply an introduction to the Yomim Tovim. Pasuk Beis is a separate mitzvah, the mitzvah that's called Ibur Shana, making a leap year. How do you make a leap year? By deciding of the new year. How do you make a leap year? By Cheshbainis. If Pesach is going to happen in the spring, in the fall, not in the spring, so you add another month. If there's not enough sheep for Korban Pesach, you add another month. If it's too cold, not enough people to travel, you add another month, and so forth. So historically, in traditional times, the idea of adding another month was a koyach given over to Bezdin. And Pasuk Beis is talking about Ibur Shana, the koyach of the Bezdin, add an extra month. Turn to page 3. What does it say by negate to the next Pasuk? Right? Eila me'li avaya asher tikru eisam b'mikroi kedesh. Mikroi kedesh asher tikru eisam Moadim. Says Rashi, the first line on the left side of page 3, L'mayla medaber b'ibur shana, Pasuk Beis, talking about actually extra month, v'kan medaber b'kiddush ha'chedesh. And now he's talking about sanctifying the month. Rabbi said there's two mitzvahs that are given exclusively to Bezdin. Rabbi said there's something very unusual about the calendar, and there's really no mitzvah like it. Now, Parshas Boy, you have a Chedesh Adal Lechem Reish Chadashim. Years ago, I gave a class, which means to say, I hope it's on the internet, where we talked about the holiday of Kiddush HaChedesh. There's a guy that very, very moidenik Chiddush from Absad Yagon. Here in our Parsha, according to Rashi and according to many Mefarshim, you have two psukim. These two psukim teach us the two mitzvahs of making the calendar. Making the calendar is an unusual mitzvah because it's not given to the community. The calendar is not a mitzvah given over to anybody, even if you're a big rabbi. The calendar is given over dafka to the Sanhedrin. In fact, the Rambam paskins that you have to be in Eretz Yisrael to make a calendar. And there's a day that has to be dafke Yerushalayim dafke. And I've told you the story in the past that in the times of the Beis Yosef, about 400 years ago, they wanted to reinstitute the smicha and to start bringing Kadosh Chedesh Al Pi Ariyah again, to go back to making a calendar, because they had in Tzfas an incredible collection of Rabbonim, and they felt that they had enough Rabbonim. In other words, they had more Rabbonim in Tzfas than in the whole world combined, and they felt that they were in a position to reinstitute the smicha. And they did it. And 3 people were given smicha. And of course, once you have smicha, the biggest difference that would be is that you no longer have to rely on the ancient calendar that was made by Hillel, but you could make your own calendar. There's a lot of other things, Dine Knossos and Malchus. None of these things are known. With Manazeh, if you have a Sanhedrin, you can do many different things. Why did it not last? Because one Gadol, Rab Levi ben Chaviv, who lived in Yerushalayim, that Al-Bach, wrote that it says in the Torah, Ki mitziyin teitzei seiro dvar Hashem Yerushalayim, that it's not enough tzfas, has to be dafki, it's not enough Eretz Yisrael, has to be dafki Yerushalayim. These two mitzvahs were given over dafka to the Sanhedrin. You know, the Rebbe talked about this over and over again. The Rebbe always used to say that in the Bezdin of the Rif, they blew shofar on Shabbos for sure. And the Rebbe once even mentioned that the Bezdin of the Rif, they were Makadosh HaChedesh Al Pi Ariyah. They didn't keep the calendar. They made their own calendar. Because there's a Rambam in Hilchas Sanhedrin, I think, that says a vort that if you have a Rav and Chutz Laras that did Lei Niach Chamaisei Be'eretz Yisrael, then they're allowed to make it a Chutz Laras as well. The Rif didn't live in Eretz Yisrael. The Rif started his life in Spain and finished his life in Morocco, but he never was in Eretz Yisrael.
They didn't make Yom at the same time?
It's a controversy, it's a long involved parsha, it's not for this moment. But one thing is certain, that the calendar is a mitzvah that's given to Bezdin. In fact, there's something very unusual about the calendar. And that is that it's called Soid HaIbur, the secret. The secret of how you make a calendar and how you fix Ibur Yar. And remember, there's 2 parts to it. One is called Kiddush Chadashim. Kiddush Chadashim means sanctifying new months, which according to this Rashi, we learned from Pasuk Dalet. And the second is called Ibur Shonim, which means that every second or third year, whatever the ratio is, you have to make an extra month of 30 days to balance out the discrepancy between the sun and the moon. That's called a leap year. This entire business is called Sayyid HaIbur, the secret of Ibur. I don't know exactly what's so incredibly intellectual about it. I'm not a big genius. But the Rogatchover once said that Kiddush HaChedesh is Sachak al-Cheshbon. It's not so complicated, halachas. What is so incredibly unusual about it is that it's not even in the Gemara. In the Gemara, you do not have the halachas about how to make a calendar. And the reason that's given, the Mendel Kasha has a whole section of Torah Shleima which he talks about this. The Rebbe spoke about it in a Sicha in Tafshin Memhei, and he get to the Smicha. But the Mendel Kasha has a whole book on the Smicha. And he says the reason it was written in the Gemara is because no one was allowed to know it except for the Chachamim. Who wrote it down? Who took the Sayyid HaIbur out of the Sayyid? The Rambam. The Rambam in Kiddush HaChedesh shows you exactly how to make a calendar and how to know where the sun is and where the moon is and the whole deal. How to fix Rosh Chodashim and how to fix Ibur Shonim and the whole so on and so forth. Although today we're not even doing it on our own, we're following the calendar of Hillel, of this of Hillel that from the times of the Yamirayim in Talmud Yerushalmi. So these two psukim, according to Rashi, and as one of you pointed out, Rashi is not alone on this. The Gemara, the Chazal certainly hold this, that these two psukim, not like Rasag says, they're just telling you how to give the Yomim Tovim names, or that you have to behave special on a Yom Tov, so there should be Meya de Havaya, it shouldn't be Veistach Moyadechem, Chagechem Moyadechem, Sana Nafshi. But that these two psukim are giving us two mitzvahs. First of all, Ibur Shonim, which means to reconcile the discrepancy between the sun and the moon by adding an extra month every second or third year in what we call Machzer Cotton, a 19-year cycle. Every 19 years you have the same cycle over again, Bekloas. And secondly, Kiddush Chadashim, that the months have to be sanctified. Okay? The difference between these two mitzvahs basically is that the first mitzvah is entirely up to Sanhedrin. The Chazal, the rabbis can get together and decide when an Ibiyah happens entirely by their own judgment. There's nothing other than what they called in Chazal Cheshbon. The rabbis calculate what to make an extra month. If the Tkufa of Aviv doesn't come before Pesach, if there's not enough sheep, if it's too cold, whatever the Cheshbonis are. And I'm sure you know what it says in Sfarim. Rambam brings down the halacha that the Kohen Gadol is not allowed to be in the Sanhedrin. Why? Because he doesn't want to make an Ibiyah. He does not want to make a leap year, because there's going to be a leap year. Yom Kippur is going to be later in the season, and he's going to freeze. so he lacks objectivity. If I make a leap year, next Yom Kippur is going to take place in November. Rachmana litzlan, he's walking around barefoot, has to toivel the mikveh 5 times in the snow. So he's not allowed to be in the Sanhedrin. Kiddush Chadashim has another factor, and that is the sighting of the moon. Rabbis can't just make Yom Tov when they want. People have to go and testify because, we saw the new moon, at least according to most days. So there's two inyanim. One inyan, Pasuk Beis, is entirely up to the Sanhedrin, Ibur Shonim. The second in Kiddush Chadashim is also up to the Sanhedrin, but it's based on the fact that there's been a sighting of the moon. The only good news is that a month cannot have more than 30 days. So if the moon is clouded over for 5 days in succession, you don't have a 35-day month. It's either 29 or 30. You understand? Kiddush Chadashim was really on the 30th day. If the 29th day was the old month, and they saw what's called the Veistach Leil, I guess it's called Leili Bure, I forgot what's called Lach Chazal. The night of the 30th, they saw the moon, they would run to the Beis HaMikdash, and they would testify they saw the new moon, and the Chazal would say, Mekudesh, Mekudesh. So the 30th day became the first day of the next month, so the prior month had only 29 days. So Rashi holds that these two psukim are teaching us two mitzvahs. It's mistama one mitzvah in Cheshbon Taryag mitzvahs, but two mitzvahs, Ibur Shonim and Kiddush Chadash. Okay? Oh, something I should have looked, I didn't. It could be he learned it from Achedesh Alachem. Ich weiß nicht, ich habe nicht geguckt. It's my mistake. Then we go to the Medrash, and today I divided up the Medrash as I probably should have always divided it up. First you have Teiras Kehanim, which is halachas of Medrash, And then you have regular Medrashim. Pages 5 and 6 is Teiras Kehanim, and pages 7 and 8, page 7 is Stam Medrash. And for the most part, from this point on, in other words, for the remainder of this class, we're going to go with the presumption that these two psukim are talking about the calendar. And Rashi is saying you have two psukim because one is about the Shonim and the other about Chadashim. The particulars we're not necessarily going to agree with, but we're all going to agree that these two psukim are not simply introducing Yom Tif or introducing Shabbos and Yom Tif, but there's a much more greater pnimius to them. And the pnimius has to do with the making of the calendar, at least the Nigla Madregas. Okay, so we read page 5, number 1. They're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, right? I numbered them. If Jewish people are in the diaspora and they started to come into Eretz Yisrael and they've already crossed the Euphrates, they've crossed the Nahar Pras, and you see they're not going to make it, so you're allowed to add an extra month to make it possible people to come. Talmud Leimar Meyadesh Bnei Yisrael Meyadesh Hashem. Aseyas Hameyades Yomim Tovim should be made. She also Eisam Kol Yisrael. You should be able to make them. So the Chachamim, the Chazal, have an incredible amount of latitude, an incredible amount of leverage. If they feel that by making Pesach in April, there's going to be a good segment of Jews who are not going to make it for Aliyah L'Regel, they make Pesach in May. They have that authority because the Yomim Tovim were made for Yidden to keep. Okay, now the next quote from the Medrash, number 2, is probably the most famous of all, right? If I can bother you to go back to the Psukim for a second, we'll go back to this in a moment. Look at Pasuk Dalet and Pasuk Beis. It says in Pasuk Beis, Me'adeh Hashem asher tikru oisam mikrai kedesh elahei mayadoi. And in Pasuk Dal it says, Eila me'ad Hashem mikrai kedesh asher tikru oisam b'mayadam. What do those two oisams have in common? That there's no vav. In Pasuk Beis and in Pasuk Dalet there's no vav. So the Chazal say you have to read it instead of oisam, you have to read it atem, right? Asher tikru atem mikroi kedesh. Asher tikru atem b'moyadam. Go back to page 5 now, and this quote is found in many different ways, but I chose this one. Lo yehoisa hashana tzricha la'abed. If the year should not have been made longer, they should not have had an extra month. Ve'ebrua, the Chazal added an extra month. Whether anusim or shaygigim or mutan, they were forced, or they made a mistake, or they plain or simple were wrong. Menayin sheimuhu beres. How do we know when the Chazal change the calendar? Even if they're wrong in their cheshbeinis, Talmud Leimed, Asher Tikru, Oisam b'moyadam, you have to call them b'moyadam. And again, in most Chazal say, it doesn't say Oisam, it says Atem. Atem afilu shegigim, Atem afilu mutoim, and Atem afilu anusim. Im krasem Atem meyadai, v'im lavein amedim. The Eibishter gave the kech to the Chazal to fix Yom Tif, and the Chazal fixed Yom Tif. Erroneously, that becomes the correct fixing of the Chazal. There's a Zayhar. There's so much Zayhar. I didn't quote all the Zayhar. I could have brought a phone book tonight. There's a Zayhar that says, the Eibishter says to the Chazal, to the Malachim, today is going to be Rosh Hashanah. Why? Because the Yidden are planning to make Rosh Hashanah. So get everything ready for a feast. And the Eibishter calls Malachim back and says, the rabbis just changed their mind. Cancel the feast. The feast is tomorrow. So Zayhan, whenever Yidden fix Yom Tif, they fix Rosh Hashanah and the year and the month and the day and so forth and so on, the Eibishter says, I follow your lead. And there's a very famous idea, which is later on in the stack. I'll read it with you inside. I don't have to tell it to you about Peh. So Moadim koyach the Eibishter gave Chazal. You have the Mishnah Masechta Rosh Hashanah, I guess. The story of Gamliel Rabbi Yeshua. I remember hearing the story as a child. But before I tell you this story, I'll tell you another story. In the times of Reb Sadia Gon, which is about 1,200 years ago, there was a split in the calendar. There was a machlokes between Chazal about the calendar. I'm sure you know that there were Kroyim, there were Karaites, who were, so to speak, a later incarnation of the Tzdukim, the Sadducees. And one of the things about the Kroyim was that they had very, very different ways of figuring out Yomim Tovim. And you have to assume that among different sects of Kroyim, they had Yomim Tovim at different times. One of the greatest miracles of Jewish history, and really one of the greatest miracles of Jewish history, is that every single Jew in the world has Yom Kippur the same day and Pesach the same day. Understand that there have been Jews who have been isolated from one another for 500 to 1,000 years. And we all have the same calendar. It's one of the greatest miracles of our diaspora, that Leinasa Teira L'Shtei Teiris. One of the most sensitive things that could happen to Yiddishkeit, to Chas v'Sholom, there should be a split in the calendar. So the times that upside you're gone, there was a Yid who lived in Eretz Yisrael who felt that he had a different cheshbon for Pesach. There was a discrepancy in 2 days. This Yid's Maila lived in Eretz Yisrael. And upside Yagon didn't live in Eretz Yisrael. Upside Yagon was the Gadol Ador. And it was a big, heated argument. I don't know all the details, but there's a lot of discussions back and forth. And Upside Yagon said, this is terrible. If you're going to make your Pesach when you make it, now I make my Pesach when I make it, in 500 years we're going to have Yom Tovim all over the place. And he warned him not to diverge, not to go away from the cloud. And the end of the story was that this Yid passed away a little while before Pesach. This other Gadol passed away before Pesach, and the whole Indian was in his battle, and everybody kept Pesach Rasag. But you have in the Mishnah Pesach Rosh Hashanah about Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Yeshua was Chassid Meikara, Ashrei Eladate, Kodesh Merechem U'ibet Anime. Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya, his whole Maile was like a Heilik Mame. She used to bring his crib to the Beis Medrash. He was so saintly, he was so holy, he was so pious, and he was never very, very intelligent, and he was not afraid to stand up to Rabbi Gamliel. And Rabbi Gamliel took it personally. I mean, the Gemara says in Masechta Brachos, Rabbi Gamliel used to punish Rabbi Yeshua for what he called his insolence, and he wasn't being insolent, he was simply arguing Torah. He made him one stand the whole day in the Beis Medrash. And that's when they demoted Rabbi Gamliel and they appointed Elazar ben Azariah in his place. They should have made Rabbi Yeshua the Nasi, but since they were doing it l'kreidish Rabbi Yeshua, they couldn't. They wanted to make Rabbi Akiva. They couldn't make Rabbi Akiva because he wasn't a miyuchas, so they made Elazar ben Azariah. The Gemara Masechta Brachos. But Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya was an incredibly great Tana, and he didn't always see eye to eye with Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel was the Nasi. This Rabbi Gamliel was before Rabbeinu HaKadosh. And they once had an argument about Yom Kippur. Also a discrepancy in a day or two. Rabbi Yeshua had a different cheshbon. And remember, in the times of the Tanoim, there was not yet the calendar. The calendar was made in the Talmud Yerushalmi, in the Gemara times, hundreds of years later. So this was an inyan that was made up in cheshbon. Rabbi Yeshua calculated the new year should be at such and such a day, based on whatever the klolim are of you skip a day here and you skip a day there and so on. And there was discrepancy of 1 or 2 days. So Rabbi Gamliel wrote a letter to Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya, and he said to him, I command you that on your Yom Kippur, you are to walk from where you live to the Sanhedrin, carrying your walking stick and your satchel and a wallet full of money. In other words, he was forcing Rabbi Yeshua to be Mechalal Yom Kippur. And on Rabbi Yeshua's Yom Kippur, Rabbi Yeshua picked up his stick and his bag and his money, and he walked to Yerushalayim, and he came to the Sanhedrin, and he showed up in the wherever it was at the time of Rabbi Gamliel. I looked at this as a child, as a kid. I remember my Malama teaching me the story. Rabbi Gamliel was totally taken aback. He stood up and he kissed him and he called him Rebbe for his humility, Pashat. But the message that lies here is that B'chalal, there's a credible koyach given to Sanhedrin, not just to rabbis, but to Sanhedrin, especially Sanhedrin Gedela in Yerushalayim. Sanhedrin Gedela in Yerushalayim have incredible authority. There's a whole din of Zoken Mamre. Zoken Mamre means a Goan Olam who argues with the Sanhedrin is Chayiv Misa. Because the Eibishter gave a kerech to the Chazal in the Sanhedrin, they were letting Lishkas HaGodas in the Beis HaMikdash and so on. This is especially true when it comes to the making of the calendar in both of its aspects. Kiddush HaChedesh and Ibur Shonim, making the Ibur Yard and fixing the Chedesh. And that's what the Chazal is saying, Ata afilu shegigim, Ata afilu mazidin, Ata afilu shegigim, afilu matan, afilu mazidin. Chazal decide when Yom Tov is, and the Eibishter says, Lakel gave it a lie. I will follow what the Chazal say. Gimel. And this number 3 is our Rashi. He says the same thing as Rashi says, right? That Pasuk Beis is talking about adding an Iber Yod, and Pasuk Dal is talking about Kiddush HaChedesh. I have to be honest that L'cheda common sense should say Faked. L'cheda Kiddush Chadashim should come first, Iber Shanim should come second. Because Kiddush Chadashim every 30 days. Iber Shana happens once in 3 years approximately. Why Iber Shana is before Kiddush Chadashim? At this particular juncture, I do not know. Zog. The first pasuk says Moyadai, and everyone says Moyadom. Okay.
That was making that correlation. This was connected with
Okay, page 6, number 4. Uminayin shemachalon Shabbos lahoyed aleim. If you see the new moon, you get on your horse and you run to Yerushalayim. If you see the new moon, as long as you're within 24 hours of Jerusalem, you get on your horse and run to Yerushalayim. What if it's Shabbos? And there's no email, and there's no fax machines, and there's no goyim, there's no nothing. You're machalol Shabbos to go and announce to come to the bezdin. What about if you know 50 other people saw, they all saddled up and they went? You have to go anyway, just in case they're going to be discredited. And they see the sheinis and mishunis, shen talmud leimer eila me'adei adishem. That these are the Yom Tovim Davish. I think the word eila, this, the emphasis on the word this means that for this thing, you're living machal Shabbos. Right? And perhaps that's why you have Pasuk Gimel in the middle, which speaks about Shmiras Shabbos, and nevertheless, Eila Me'ei Adisham. Yochol Kashem Shem Machalam as a Shabbos Lahoyd Alav. Kach Echal as a Shabbos Lahidia Eleim Shenis Kaimu. You see, you had to run 2 ways. First, you had to run to the Beis HaMikdash to tell the Bezdin that you saw the moon, and the Bezdin had to fix their Shchedesh. Then you had to go from the Bezdin to the whole of Israel and announce what day was their Shchedesh. You didn't have to know when Pesach is. You didn't have to know when Shavuos was. Shavuos was easier, but when Sukkot is, and Rosh Hashanah, and Yom Kippur, so it's called Shluchim Yetz. And the Mishnah says, B'shisha Chadashim, 6 months of the year, the Shluchim used to go out to tell people when Yom Tov is, including Purim and Chanukah. You're not allowed to be Machal Shabbos for that. You were allowed to be Machal Shabbos to come to the Bezdin and tell them you saw the moon, but you were not allowed to be Machal Shabbos to leave from the Bezdin to tell people when the Shchedesh is.
And there was the fires.
Yeah, the Chatchila. Then later they took it away because it is dukim. Mishkilkul aminim. Talmud leima asher tikru. That you have to call al kriyasam at Machal Shabbos. You're allowed to be Machal Shabbos to announce the Yom Tiv. V'yat Machal Shabbos leidi aleim sheneskaimu. You're not allowed Machal Shabbos to tell people. I doubt it. The answer that they could have had was that the following night they would or wouldn't make a fire. You have to understand, the fires were made, there probably was a cheshbon how they did it on a Friday night. Page 7. This page 7 is one of the most remarkable shtikla Chazal. And there are very few Mamara Chazal that Rebbe quoted more frequently than this one. It's a Gemara Yerushalmi. And when the Rebbe would quote it, apparently it's a medrash also, he would connect it to the pasuk Lakeil Gemer Alai. Lakeil Gemer is a pasuk in Kapitel Nun Zayin, I think, in Tillim. And the way you read is Lakeil to the Eibishter, Kama, Gemer Alai, Yidden finish for the Eibishter. And this is the source of the idea that if the Eibishter has one plan, and the Chazal make a mistake, and they make a different plan, the Eibishter follows the plan of the Chazal against his own judgment. The Vustazach from Besoleh Chayzim that I've always brought. I'll explain it to you momentarily. This is a Gemara Yerushalmi. Ksiv, it's written, who was such a great people? They have such fair laws. Which people are like this people? Normal way of the world is the ruler says today you will be judged, and the prisoner, the one being judged, says no, not today, tomorrow. Who do you listen to? And of course, a governor who's trying a criminal doesn't ask the criminal when he wants to be tried. If the Beis Din announced today is Rosh Hashanah, Kadosh Baruch Hu, Eimelim Lachashadas, Hashem says the Malachim, Hamidu Bima, put up a stage, V'imdu Sanigurin, V'imdu Katigurin, put up the prosecutors and the advocates. She'amru Badnai Hayim Reish Hashanah, because my children announced that today is Rosh Hashanah. Nimluchu Beis Din. If the Chazal changed their mind, and of course this is not so simple, changing your mind was not so pashut. Rabbi Yechanan King Gadol made takanas, and one of his takanas was that once they were made the new year, they didn't change it. They would make a second day Rosh Hashanah, but they wouldn't go back. If they made the first day Rosh Hashanah, and the Edom came too late, so really it shouldn't have been Rosh Hashanah, but because they made Rosh Hashanah, they didn't want to abolish it, so they made 2 days Rosh Hashanah, even in the times of the Beis HaMikdash. But okay, there was a tkufa at least where after the Chazam decides Rosh Hashanah, they changed their mind. Nimluchu Beis Din la'abram l'macha. They decided to make an extra day and to make Rosh Hashanah the following day. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Eimer l'malachei Hashanah, Hashem tells his angels, Haviru bima, take away the stage. Yavru sanigurin, yavru kategurin, take away the advocates, take away the prosecutors. My children decided to make Rosh Hashanah tomorrow. My timer. How do we know this? Skip the parenthesis, because it says that Yidden have the koyach to fix when is Rosh Hashanah. So Moadim the Kizach. The Eibishter has a plan, and the Yidden could change it. Moreover, Yidden made a plan and the Eibishter confirmed it, and the Yidden changed their mind. The Eibishter followed the plan that the Yidden made. The Gemara says in Masechta Pesachim that you're not allowed to be ma'abaras Hashanah b'lamed Adar. You could add an extra Adar until Chav Tes Adar Rishon. Chizkiyahu HaMelech once made a second Adar on what would have been a Chedesh Nisan, and he was wrong. But even though he was wrong, the halacha was that he had that authority. He made a second Adar. In other words, you don't have to plan it 6 months in advance. A day before Rosh Chodesh Nisan, you could say Adar Sheni, finished. You were not supposed to do it on the day that could be Rosh Chodesh Nisan. You shouldn't do it. 1 day before he could have done it. So the Rebbe brings the Bavusta Vart about Besoleh HaChezres. There's a din. There's a lot of nafkaminas halacha. And according to certain days, it's negei lagabi gated girls, gatus. Pachas min begimel shonim. There's a difference between a girl before she turns 3 and after she turns 3. Different halachas. Lagabi verschiedene Sachen. And if a girl converts to Judaism, what ksuba does she have? Does she have Messiah? Does she have Meah? How young was she when she went to Gir? All kinds of stuff. If a girl is 3 years old, so she has one status. And then the Chacham make a second Adar. So she's retroactively not 3 yet. So the halacha says, Kolzman, the Chacham didn't make her Ibur, she was already 3 and she has no psulim. When the Chachamim come along tomorrow, and they announce that they're going to make a second Adar, retroactively, Besoleh HaChezres, she has psulim. She's under 3 years old. So this is a Yerushalmi Rosh Hashanah. The Rebbe always calls the Yerushalmi Masechta Ksubis, which speaks is what is the Vart? The Vart is the Eibush that says he gave the koyach to Chachamim over time, and the koyach that the Chachamim have over time is retroactive. The Chazal can fix the past. Yeah, a boy of 13 years old kills somebody. Apidin Chayev Misa. He's an adult. Later that month, they add an extra Adar, so he becomes retroactively 12 and a half. And so on and so forth. You can go through many different scenarios where the Chazal have the power, where the Rebbe says it over Zman. They can later fix earlier. This is the Keach the Eibush gave the Chachamim. And that's what we're learning from these 2 psukim. Eila med asher tikru atem, the Eibush gave a Keach the Chazal to fix time, even to fix time as far as the past is concerned. Look at the end of this paragraph. Rav Krispa, b'shem Rabbi Yechanan, says, Lisha'avar eila med Hashem, before the Torah was given, the Moadim belonged to the Eibush. Mikan ve'elach asher tikru esam. Once the Torah was given, it's up to us. Amar Rab Ila, Im Krisem Eisam Hey Meyadai. If you name a Yom Tov, it's my holiday. If you don't make a Yom Tov, it's not my holiday. Shane. So we're deep into this, right? We're deep into this, and we do have to be aware of the fact that we don't have all night. There's a couple of small things that I would have done if I had a little more time. I included in this stack a shach, that has a shtickle vart of Musar, and also a Rachaim and a shtickle vart of Musar. Let's skip them. Let's go straight to the Zehar, which of course is on the next page, on page 8. The Rabbi say, we are learning the Parsha of Moadim, the Parsha of Yomim Tovim. In the midst of Parsha of Yom Tov, of Moadim, we have two psukim that when this class started an hour ago, seemed to be nothing more than introductory. Hellos, good mornings. And as I pointed out to you, you don't have two such psukim, you actually have four such psukim. But as I explained to you that it's impossible to do all four, so today we're going to do only two of them. And we started out wondering, what are these two psukim altogether telling us? We had the Rasag, we had other Mefarshim who say that Yom Tov is only Yom Tov if you keep it the way you're supposed to, and so forth. But it didn't take us long to get to the deeper pshat. And the deeper pshat is that these are the two psukim in the Torah that are teaching us the koyach that the Eibush that gave the Bezdin to fix Yom Tov. Why do you have to have two psukim? You have to have two psukim because one is about fixing years, the other one is about fixing months. We are about to learn a shtickle of Zayah, just a small piece of Zayah. However, after we learn the Zayah, I want to offer you an insight of my own, which is not directly connected to this Rashi. According to the Rashi that we just learned, you have two psukim because there's two aspects of the calendar, the year and the month. We are going to learn these psukim like they're written inside. So before we do the shtickle Zehar, let's go back to page 1. Let's read the four psukim one more time. Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, he should tell the Jewish people, all the Jewish people, not just the Kohanim. David Abnei Yisrael, tell the Jewish people, V'amat Aleim, and you should inform them, Meyadei Adeshem, the holidays of God. Asher tikru oisam, that you should call Mikroi Kedesh, that they're called holiness. Eilehei Moyadoi, these are my holidays. And then it mentions Shabbos. Sheishes Yomim Tiyasam Malacha, for 6 days work can be done. Or Yom HaShvi on the 7th day. Shabbos, Shabbos. It's a day of rest. Mikra Kodesh, it's also called holy. And here it says Mikra Kodesh Lashon Yochid. You notice? Or the other one it says Mikra Ei Kodesh. Here it says Mikra Kodesh Lashon Yochid. Because it's only one Yom Tov according to some Mefarshim. Kamalach Aleisas, you're not allowed to do any kind of work. Shabbos U'Lahavaya, it's a day of rest for the Eibush to Bechel Meshvesech. And then Pasuk David says, Eila Meyadei Hashem, these are the Yom Tovim of the Eibishter, Mikroi Kedesh that are already called holy, Asher Tikru Oisim, that you should call B'Moyadam in their times. In addition to Rashi, and all the other things that we learned, we still have the fundamental question, on a pshat level. You introduce Yom Tov, and then you mention Shabbos. Then you reintroduce Yom Tov, and you talk about the Yomim Tovim. Right? Like some of the Mefarshim say, the Eibush wants to talk about Yom Tov. But although the Eibush wants to talk about Yom Tov, he mentions Shabbos. Once he mentions Shabbos, so he mentions Yom Tov a second time. Right? That's a very simple pshat. Pasuk Beis is an introduction to Yom Tov. After the Eibush introduces Yom Tov, he mentions Shabbos. After he mentions Shabbos, he reintroduces Yom Tov. He wants you to know, hey Zachai, although I'm telling you about Yom Tov, Shabbos is not exactly a Yom Tov. How is Shabbos not a Yom Tov? There's many reasons Shabbos is not a Yom Tov. First of all, Shabbos is not a Yom Tov because we don't make Shabbos. Shabbos Makacha V'Kaima. The Eibishter made Shabbos. Second of all, Shabbos is not a Yom Tov because we don't say Chasi Lochem and Chasi Lashem. It's not 50-50. Half of you and half of the Eibishter. It's Kula La'avaya. Shabbos and Yom Kippur is all to the Eibishter. It's only Yom Tov, which is Chasi. So for these reasons, the Torah says it again. So again, very pashtistic. Hashem says to Moshe, tell the Jewish people about Yom Tov, and he talks about Shabbos. After he talks about Shabbos, he introduces Yom Tov a second time. But look at the differences. Look at Pasuk Beis, and look at Pasuk Dalet. Pasuk Beis says, Eila me'ad adeshem asher tikru oisam mikroi kodesh. These are the Yomim Tovim that you're going to call, and you're going to call them holy. Right? The Eilahei Mayadei, these are my Mayadei. What does Mayadei mean? My times. My Zman. Pasuk Dalet. Eila Mayadei Hashem Mikroi Kedesh. These are the houses of God Mikroi Kedesh. It doesn't say Asher Tikru Oisa Mikroi Kedesh. It says they're already Mikroi Kedesh. And here it says Asher Tikru Oisa B'Mayadam. You should call them in their times. You see the difference? In Pasuk Beis, Asher Tikru is connected to Mikroi Kodesh, and in Pasuk Dalet, Asher Tikru is connected to Me'adam, and Mikroi Kodesh is something separate. You see? Right? In Pasuk Beis, it says you call it Mikroi Kodesh, and Me'adam is separate. And in Pasuk Dalet, the Tikru Oita is connected to Me'adim, and Mikroi Kodesh is by itself. So this is Zayar. And I want to give you a commentary. First of all, what I think the pshat is. But first we'll read the Zayar. The Zayar explains the words Mikroi Kodesh. And he translates Mikroi Kodesh very simply. Mikroi Kodesh means to call holiness. Arois tzuruf and heiligkeit. That's what he calls it. Mikroi Kodesh means to call holiness. So it's on page 8. On the right side, about 12 lines on the bottom, where I made my first arrow. The arrows were a little bit darkened by the copy. Page 8. On the right side, where I made my first arrow. I'm starting in the middle of a sentence, but the Zayar is explaining Pasuk Dalet. Eila me'ad Hashem asher tikru eisam. He translates, what does Mikroi Kodesh mean? Dr. Azeh. Begin kach sivi Mikroi Kodesh. Why are Yomim Tovim called Mikroi Kodesh? So the Sag said they're called Mikroi Kodesh because we have to give them names. Other people said Mikroi Kodesh is because you have to behave on a Yom Tov in a special way so that it should be considered Hashem's Yom Tov and not Me'adechem and Chageichem. He says because Aminin Inun Lahu Asa. These are days that invite that land, that place, the Ikra Kodesh, which is called holy, which goes either on Bina or on Chokhmah. Lis Atrabe, to crown them. Ul Ishtababe, and to join them. Begin the Iskachin Kulhoin Kichader. They should all join in holiness. Mikra Kodesh means a day that calls holiness. Not a day that is called holy. Mikra Kodesh means it's calling to holiness. What is Kodesh? What is holiness? So it depends how you spell it. With a vav or without a vav. And you look on the Mefarshim on the margin, you can see either Bina or Chokhmah. But Eila Me'ad Hashem. Mikra Kodesh means that there are certain days that call to holiness. They call to the extraordinary. They say, holiness, come and join us, come and be with us. And then he goes on to say, of course, when holiness joins you, so you have it's a special kind of time because the holiness has joined you. And there's some more details. He talks about the need to make a Yom Tov and to prepare a feast, and so forth and so on. Let me give you Kabbalah language for a moment. The Kabbalah works as follows. All days of the year have a separate chayas. Yeah, this in Tanya in Perek Mamalav B'Emes, more or less. The difference in one day and the next is not just that the sun has gone up and gone down and gone up again. It's a different energy. There's different mysticism with the chayas of each day. But the klal say this man at the beginning of Zman is Malchus. Malach Yimlach is man. So the division of days has to do with Malchus of Atzilus. The separation between Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday is all connected to Malchus. When you have a Yom Tif, what happens is Malchus becomes unified with a higher Sfira. On Chanukah and Purim, Malchus are unified with Netzach and Heid. On Rish Chodesh, Malchus is unified with Zoh. On Yom Tif, Malchus is unified with Bina. On Shabbos, Malchus is unified with Chochmah. And on Yom Kippur, and I'll say it, and on Shavuos, Malchus is unified with Kesed. So Mikra Kodesh means there's regular days. Regular days are days that are connected to Malchus. Mikra Kodesh means days that are calling holiness. Days that are calling an energy from a higher place to halify these days. That these units of time are not only special because of what we do, but to the contrary, the special things we do have to do with the holiness of the day. And Mikra Kodesh means they're togruft. The day is calling to holiness and saying, please ascend, come down and join me, come into us. That's such Mikra Kodesh. But then it says later, Asher tikru eisam b'meyatam. 4 lines from the bottom. Mikra Kodesh means that the day is calling holiness and saying, holiness, come and join us. And then it says, Asher tikru eisam b'meyatam. You call it b'meyatam. So Mikra Kodesh already means that the holiness has been brought down from a higher level to Malchus. Asher tikru eisam b'meyatam means that you bring that holiness from Malchus into the lower worlds. Zog de Zeir Ksiv, 3 lines from the bottom, V'anche Kedesh Tiyun Yidden are supposed to be holy. That Yisrael Litata, Yidden below, Ikran Anche Kedesh were the people of holiness. What does that mean? Kivan, Dezaminin, Inun, Mikdash, Kedesh Delelu. We invite the holiness from on high. Atun Ante Kedesh Litato. Zemina lahu, you are the people of holiness that you invite, right? Kedain, and therefore, askinu su'udasa, we make a feast. V'chadu, when we rejoice. Dahalachu itchazi, the holiness appears to you. Begin the atun itkin anche kedesh, v'yahein kulu zeminin b'chol sita the kedesh la'elu latat. And it is because of you that the holiness is invited everywhere on the higher levels and the lower levels. That means to say that there's 2 steps to a Yom Tif. The first step to a Yom Tif is Mikra Kodesh. Mikra Kodesh means that the day calls holiness. The second step is Asher Tikru Oisam Me'adam. Once a day, once Malchus of Atzilus, on a particular day, has been connected to holiness, which is higher than Malchus of Atzilus, a Yid brings it down into Zman. A Yid brings it down into the day, into every single day. You follow? So Mikra Kodesh means that this man is calling holiness. Asher Tikru Oisam Me'adam means this holiness, which has been brought down into Malchus of Atzilus, you are bringing down into real time. And the emphasis on page 9, you have another Zayat, it's a Zayat in Pashas Pinchas. It's a very interesting Zayat. It's a Shiluach HaKan Zayat. I got some mice with birds. The bottom line is, he says the same idea that the Zayat said on the previous page in a different signet. He says, Yidden have an ability, because there's a nest of birds. And the mother is hovering above the nest. How many birds are in the nest? 5, 6, 7. It's a long story. The Yidden know how to access one of those birds. Which bird can they access? Malchus of Atzilus. And the Yidden whispered, I described it. The Yidden are whispering to this bird. And even though this bird is in the nest, and the mother is hovering over the chicks, which goes on Bina. And what Bina does is it keeps the Kedusha of Atzilus up. This little bird pokes out its head to hear that it's being beckoned, that it's being summoned. And the Yidden call this bird. And the Zayah described that when Yidden call this bird, the bird calls all of its brothers and sisters. And they send away the mother, and all the birds join. That's like Mikroi, Kedesh, Lashon, Rabim. You're calling various madregis of Kedusha that goes on the 7 midas. What are you sending away, Bina? Because what Bina does, means she's a higher light. She keeps her children with her. So we send away the mother, so that the children that are called Kodesh should descend into the lower worlds. So Mikroi Kodesh means Yidden have the ability to call Kedusha. And the way it's explained in the Zayir and Parshas Pinchas, we reach Malchus, and we get Malchus to summon the other Madregas of Kedusha, and we bring it down Latata into the lower worlds as well. Now I want you to look at the two psukim one more time. I am offering you a pshat. I cannot say I take responsibility for this pshat because I'm not entitled. But just listen to what I'm saying. I am going to make a proposal to you. The difference between Pasuk Beis and Pasuk Daled is the difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov. And the difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov is that Shabbos Makacha V'Kaima, the Eibishter makes Shabbos. We make Yom Tov. So look at the Psukim. Pasuk Beis. David Abnei Yisrael, speak to the Jewish people. We're talking about Shabbos. V'amarta aleim, and tell them, Meyadei Hashem, the Eibishter's manim, the Eibishter's time. Asher tikru oisam, that you are going to call. But what does it mean you're going to call? Mikroi Kodesh. You are going to call the Kedusha, holiness, which is separated from Malchus of Atzilus, should come down into Malchus of Atzilus. Zog der Eibishter Elohei Meyadoi, this is my time. What does that mean? Shabbos happens by itself. The Lashon that's always brought is Shabbos Makacha V'Kaima. The Eibishter makes Shabbos. So the Eibishter says, Elohei Meyadoi, Shabbos is my time, it has nothing to do with you. But even Shabbos, which is the Eibishter's time, and the Eibishter Kaviyachal does not need us to make Shabbos, it says there's also the inyan of Lasais as a Shabbos. The Yidden add a new dimension to Shabbos. So it says, Asher Tikru Oisam, what is the Yidden contributions to Shabbos? Mikroi Kodesh, to call down a higher Madreg of Kedusha into Shabbos. But the Yidden's contribution to Shabbos is only Lamaila. Lamata, it says, Elohei Meyadei. When it comes to time, Shabbos is only the Eibishter's. Pasuk Daled is talking about Yom Tov. Look at Pasuk Daled. Eila Meyadei Adeshem Mikroi Kodesh. These are the Moadim, these are the times associated with Yom Tov. Mikroi Kodesh means what? That you're calling from Kodesh Elyon, from higher Madreg of Kedusha. It should come down to Malchus of Atzilus. And then it says, Asher Tikru Eisam B'Moyadam, that Yidden then call the holiness down from Lamaila B'Moyadam into real time. The difference in the two psukim is, when you talk about Shabbos, Yidden's contribution is only one thing, Mikra Kodesh. But Tikru Eisam B'Moyadam has nothing to do with us. We bring down the Kedusha of Shabbos Baruch Niyaz. But how it is Lamata Elohei Meyadai, it's the Eibishter's. When it comes to Yom Tov, the Yidden's contribution is both things. First of all, Mikra Kodesh, we're mamshach into the day of Kedusha. And second of all, Asher Tikru Eisam B'Moyadam, we bring the Kedusha from Lamayla to Lamata. And I'm just suggesting, the Zayah that we read is on Pasuk Daled, not on Pasuk Beis. I'm just suggesting that perhaps this is the reason that it's repeated twice. But on Pepnimis on Yom it's repeated twice because it reveals the mystical difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov. Shabbos, we also partners with the Eibishter. But our partnership with the Eibishter on Shabbos is only Asher Tikru Eisam B'Moyadam Kodesh, to bring it down to Baruch Niyas Lamayla. When it comes to Shabbos in this world, Elohei Meyadai, that's the Eibishter's man. Two psukim later, it says the same thing again, but now he's talking about Yom Tov. And when it comes to Yom Tov, he says Yidden's contribution is two things. First of all, Mikroi Kodesh, we bring down holiness and Ruchnius on Yonim. And second of all, Asher Tikru Eisam B'Moyadam, the holiness we bring down Baruchnius, we also bring down Bagashmis. So I'm suggesting that you could read into this Zayah. The Zayah goes on Pasuk Daled, and the Zayah says that there's two inyanim in Pasuk Daled. That perhaps in Pasuk Beis, you have only one inyan, because this is the difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov. And finally, but I found the Merebim Sasiche. After hours and hours and hours of looking, I came across the Merebim Sasiche. You look and you look and you look and you don't find anything, and then it lands in your lap. This is a Sicha from Tav Shin Tes Zayin, where the Rebbe says a gewaltige Zach. Look on page 13. At the Friedrich Rebbe Tamod erzählt am Meise. The Friedrich Rebbe said, let's read this. Your test, first paragraph. Lifnei Yasrim Shana, 20 years ago, Siper Kveit Kedushas made of Achami Admor, the Friedrich Rebbe told the story. Oides Torah mea Baal Shem Tov. A teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. It's not Stam a teaching, but it's a teaching Asher Ayada Lokach Es HaMagid Li Yes Talmidim. that by this teaching, the Maggid became his Talmud. The Baal Shem Tov said something to the Mezritcher Maggid, which was so powerful that it made the Maggid be his Talmud. Va'al yada lokach ha-Maggid es Admor HaZaken li es Talmidei. Then later on, the Mezritcher Maggid said this Torah over to the Alter Rebbe, and with this Torah, the Alter Rebbe became the Maggid's Talmud. V'kasher Admor HaZaken also Admor Hemtzoi b'tziyah shel kloli. When the Alter Rebbe made the Mittler Rebbe into an Inyan of a Rebbe, Amalei Torah Zu, the Alter Rebbe told the Mittler Rebbe the same Torah, but Amr, he told him as follows. Listen to these words. Ayadei Torah Zu, through this Torah, Kiddush Zikni es HaRebbe, my Zayda, the Baal Shem Tov, sanctified my Rebbe, the Maggid. Okay, skip the bracket. V'hakiddushin shel Zikni Am'in shel Matan Torah. The fact that the Baal Shem Tov was Makadesh, the Maggid in a Matan Torah. V'Torah Zu, hi harishena shel Matan Rebbe. And the Alter Rebbe says, just like the Baal Shem Tov was Makadesh, the Maggid with this Torah, the Maggid was Makadesh me with the same Torah. And the Rebbe says a Torah on this pasuk, and he says this was the Torah that made the Maggid a Talmud of the Baal Shem Tov, and the Alter Rebbe a Talmud of the Maggid. And he uses a Lashon Kedusha. Eile meyadei avaya. These are the times of the Eibishter that are called holy, that you will call in their times. The times of the Eibishter goes on Yom Tov. But in Yonam is Mikroi Kedesh Amurim B'Teira. They're in the Teira. They're written in the holiness of the Teira. Shalpayim Shana Kodma Teira Le'el. The Teira is 2,000 years before the world. So you have to read the pasuk like this. Eila Mea De Hadishem. Mikroi Kedesh, that the Eibishter has Yomim Tovim, but the Yomim Tovim, the way the Eibishter gave them, are only in the Torah. Dahainu Shameya de Hashem Himtinu Apayim Shana Al Matan Torah Vayisrael. And these days wait for Matan Torah and for the Yidden, because the holiness of these days exists only in theory, in the Torah. And then you have to read again. Mikroi Kedesh Ashatikru Eisa B'Ma'idam. He teaches. Mikroi Kedesh means Shemamshichim Kedesh on the Yidden. When they learn about the Yom Tov and they make a Yom Tov, they bring a higher holiness into the Yom Tov. Tzrichim lahamshich as Kedesh Elyon. They bring a higher holiness into the Yom Tov. Ashatikru Eisa B'Ma'idam. How do they do this? By preparing themselves for Yom Tov. The way this pasuk is read is as follows. Eila Mea De Hashem Mikroi Kedesh. Mikroi Kedesh Asher Tikru Eisem Me'adam. But there's a difference between the two Kedeshs. The second Kedesh is higher than the first Kedesh. Eila Mea De Hashem Mikroi Kedesh means the Eibishter made Yom Tov, and the Yom Tov is stuck in the Torah. Torah is holy, but Torah is Baruchnius. It doesn't come down into the world. Then you say Mikroi Kedesh. When Yidden make Yom Tov, they bring into Yom Tov a higher Kedusha than the Kedusha the Yom Tov had itself, because it's in the Torah. Asher Tikru Eisem B'Me'adam. That in addition to making a Yom Tov, Yidden prepare themselves for Yom Tov and they bring the Yom Tov down into this world. So the Rebbe goes on to ask, I don't understand, what's so spectacular about this Torah? Eila Me'adam D'Shem Mikroi Kedesh. The Eibishter has a Yom Tov in the Torah. Mikroi Kedesh Me'adam. Yidden make a Yom Tov, they bring a higher Kedusha into the Yom Tov, and they bring the Yom Tov down into this world through Achana. This is what made the Maggid a Talmud. This is what made the Alter Rebbe a Talmud. I mean, you couldn't, big deal. And he shows you this of all Balabata Shazach. Umikan Raya, second page arrow. This proves Shachashivas Einikokach Beteichen Advan. There's no doubt that it wasn't so much what the Baal Shem Tov said. Was men sagt, Elabei Fenamiras, wie men sagt. It wasn't what the Baal Shem Tov said. It was how the Baal Shem Tov said it that grabbed the Maggid. Ukfisha Metzinu b'Shas Matan Torah. We find when the Eibishter gave us the Torah. It was said very simple things. The way it was said, it becomes Matan Torah. Matan Torah was not about the words, it was about the visual. They saw Getlach. So the Baal Shem Tov told the Maggid Torah. But the way the Torah was said grabbed the Mezritcher Maggid. And what is the Teichen of the Torah? That the Yom Tov exists in the Torah. And the Yid then adds to the Yom Tov as it is in the Torah a higher Kedusha, and then brings the Yom Tov down into this world. Turn the page. Page 14. Kalema, this means B'meshech kol hazman, throughout all of history. Mamtina haTeira, the Teira waits. Shetove shnas hey tov shin tezayin. We should come to the year 1956, I'm sorry. Va'adam Yisrael yilmei Teira, each should study Teira. Shayadei limudei, that by his learning, mamshich ein insaf b'Teira, he brings into the Teira get lachai. Before the Yid learned it, the Yom Tov exists only in the Teira, but Teira was only chachmas shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When the Yid learns it, the Yom Tov, the way it's written in the Teira, is not only chachmas shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but it's ein sof. A Yid is mamshich into the Teira, a inyan which is higher than the Teira. When Yid learns Teira, Baruch connected, the Eibush learns with him. In other words, when Yid learn Teira, there's an expression in the Gemara, Teira Lishma. What does it mean to learn Teira Lishma? To do the Teira a favor while you learn it. How are you doing the Teira a favor when you learn it? So your answer is, you're mamshech the neis not Teira into the Teira. When a Yid learns Teira, you bring the Eibush that's higher than Chachmas Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu into the Eibush's Teira. So Eila Me'adeh Adeshem Mikra Kedesh. The Teira, the Yom Tif, as the Eibush created, is stuck in the Teira, and Kedesh means Bina. And then Asher Tikru Esam. When a Yid learns the Torah, he's mamshach into the Yom Tif, which by itself is only Bina, the Kedusha of Chachma, the Kedusha of Ein Sof. And then by making a Hachana on Yom Tif, we bring that Kedusha down into this world. Last paragraph on the same page. V'zehu teichen ha'inyan, it's the Pshat, Eila Me'adeh Adeshem. That the Torah is 2,000 years before the world. Shatera mamtina liyisrael shemadu, a Torah waits for you to learn it. Ubechol pam shalemed, when a Yid learns, I feel dvarim pshutim. Afilu k'shachayzer eida pam eitzin shvad lamad as a mamshach b'Torah er chodesh. Every time a Jew learns Torah, the ideas are the same, but the light is new. Okay. V'hemshach haTorah, top of the next page, is mikroi kedesh. That even though the Torah by itself is holy, but when a Yid learns it, we bring a higher holiness. Shemamshichim kedesh elyon. A higher level of holiness is brought into the Torah. Kedesh mili begamei. Haynu shakavani lahamshach hazachidesh bechel. To bring holiness into the ordinary. Hamshach haser insof b'Torah bilvad. Not only do you bring the holiness of the Ein Sof into the Torah, Ella Eina Hatachas, it's not the end. Ella Tachlasi lahamshach ein Sof gam yanechel. So how do you read it? Ela Me'adeh Hashem Mikroi Kedesh. In the Eibush, there's Torah, which is holy, you have mitzvahs. Mikroi Kedesh Asher Tikru Eisam. When a Yid learns Torah, he brings a new Kedusha into this mitzvah. But then Asher Tikru Eisam Me'adeh, you have to bring it into the Gashmizdika world, into Zman. And I think this is very similar to the Zayah that we just finished learning. But there's two inyanim. Mikroi Kedesh means to call to holiness, and Asher Tikru Eisam Me'adeh means to bring it down into the lower world. And the Rebbe is saying the same idea, that a Yid adds two Chedushim to the Torah. Yom Tif exists in Torah. First of all, he adds a higher holiness to the Yom Tif as it is in the Torah. And second of all, this Yom Tif, with its higher holiness, he brings down into Zman, into the real world. Okay? He explains, have to bring it into this world. Moisef Levayed, he continues, and he explains. How can a Yid affect both of these things? A, bring down the Ein Sof into the Torah, and bring the Torah into the world, by preparing yourself. And if I may go out on a limb and say, this means that it's not enough to learn Torah, you have to do the mitzvahs as well. When you learn the Torah of a Yom Tif, you bring the Ein Sof into the Torah. When you make a hachana to do the mitzvahs bepeil on that Yom Tif, you bring that Kedusha down into the real world. Page 15, turn the page. You bring the holiness down into our time. The Mikra Kedesh, idea of holiness. Bring a new light into the Torah. By learning that after your davening, and first you bring the new light into the Torah, and then you bring this new Torah also into yourself and into the world. So this is the idea of Yom Tif. The idea of Yom Tif is this pasuk is saying two things. First of all, a Yid adds holiness to the Kedusha Shalamayla. And second of all, the Kedusha Shalamayla Yid brings down into the lower worlds. Now, why this Torah would have such an impression on the Maggid and the Alter Rebbe that this was a Torah which is Makadesh them is very, very hard to say. But I'll just say one little thing in conclusion, which is the common sense. In this Torah, you have two extremes. Mitad echad, you're bringing out the Maila of a Yid that he could reach higher than the Torah. And Mitad Sheni, you're saying, what is the ultimate truth of a Yid? Is that higher holiness should be brought down into the lowest worlds. But be that as it may, we learned these two psukim. We had a number of different pshatim. First we had more pshat-like pshatim. Then we learned that Rashi with the Mechazal, this has to do with Ibur Shonim and Kiddush Chadashim. And we finished off by explaining that these two psukim are different, because one is talking about what a Yid does affecting the holiness of Shabbos, and the other one is talking what a Yid does to affect the holiness of Yom Tov.